Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the Free Hour. It's your boy Trevor Turner. We back with another video, man. And today we are on another video in our Productivity ABC series, the ABCs of productivity. And we're on the letter D today. And of course, our series theme is we're going to be talking about aligning productivity with purpose, focusing on how effective habits and purposeful actions can steadily increase productivity by aligning tasks with long-term goals. What if you could accomplish more in a few hours of focused work than an entire day of distractions? D is for deep work in the context of productivity. What we're going to be talking about today is the importance of deep, focused work in improving productivity, how it helps align your tasks with long-term goals, and then, of course, practical strategies to incorporate deep work into our daily routines. How do we get this into something that we can do every day? So let's get into it, man. Let's talk about what deep work is. Deep work is the ability to focus without distraction on a cognitively demanding task. This allows for the creation of high-value, high-quality output in a shorter amount of time. One of the things about deep work is it kind of gets into that flow state. That flow state is where you're doing something that is not too easy that you can necessarily do it on autopilot, but not so hard that you have to just focus every bit and ounce of energy on it. It's doing something that is just hard enough, doing something that is just engaging enough to where you can get lost in it, but not to where you have to put everything into it. So when we talk about deep work, it's about getting into that flow state. Obviously, there are going to be times when we can't do this. Obviously, there are going to be times when the work is just too easy. Obviously, there are going to be times when the task is too hard. But I think for the majority of times, especially when we get into the things that we are trying to create for ourselves, on our own dime, on our own time, the things that we're trying to do for ourselves, deep work is where we can really start to get into the meat and potatoes of what it is that we are trying to do for us. Like if you're trying to write something, you can get into that deep work. You can get into that flow state. You can get into those time blocks of time, those chunks of time where you just throw everything into it and you get into that deep work. So the importance of deep work and productivity. Deep work leads to higher productivity, better problem solving, and the achievement of long-term goals. So when we talk about this, we talk about Cal Newport. Cal Newport is a professor and author. He's known for his research on productivity and the benefits of deep, uninterrupted work. And Cal Newport's work in his book, Deep Work, where he argues that deep focused work is becoming increasingly valuable in the knowledge economy. Deep work, being able to get into those sessions of flow, being able to focus on something uninterrupted, being able to continuously work and give it a good amount of effort, a good amount of thought, being able to focus on one thing, one task, one group of tasks, one category of tasks. He said it is becoming increasingly important in the knowledge economy. Being able to get into that flow state, being able to give yourself time to get into that flow state, being able to give yourself enough time to batch these activities, being able to give yourself enough time to block these activities out, to give yourself the opportunity to get into the deep work is what is valuable in the knowledge economy. That is what he's talking about. He's talking about the opportunity. He's talking about separating yourself from distractions. He's talking about being able to put your phone on Do Not Disturb, being able to put it on focus mode. He's talking about being able to turn that phone off. He's talking about being able to turn notifications off. He's talking about being able to put yourself in a place where you can just be alone with what it is you're trying to do or what it is you're trying to accomplish. Now, there was a man, and I read about him in Think and Grow Rich. I'm not sure if it was Thomas Gates. Could have been Gates. It could have been Edison. It was one of those dudes. Way back, these guys were the people who they came up with solutions. They came up with solutions to not only their problems, but to the world's problems. And one of the things that they would do is that they would put themselves into a soundproof room. They would put themselves into a soundproof room and they would bring in all their materials, especially materials related to something that they were working on. They would bring in all of the known quantities of something they were trying to solve, all of the known quantities of something that they were trying to get the solution to or the answer to. They would bring in everything that they had already and they knew they needed the solution to. They would bring it into this soundproof room and they would focus on nothing else but every piece of the puzzle that they already had. They would focus on nothing else but the fact that there was a missing piece of the puzzle and they needed to get to it. They would focus on nothing else but 1 + 1, and they would try to get to that equals 2. That's that deep work. That's that opportunity for deep work. That's setting yourself up in the environment for deep work. That's setting yourself up to be able and capable to engage in that deep work in that flow state. And what happens is your brain will start to respond. We just talked about how it gives you increased creativity, high value, high quality output, increased creativity, increased productivity, focusing on those demanding tasks, focusing on those solutions that you need, focusing on what you already have so that you can get to what you need. And let's talk about how that gets there. Let's talk about the science behind deep work, because we always got to break down a little bit of the science. Let's talk about focus on the brain. Deep work actually optimizes brain performance by eliminating distractions, allowing the brain to enter a state of flow where creativity and problem solving peak. And this is just something I was actually reading about earlier today. I'm not even going to try to say his name. It's Mihaly, and it's a Russian name. Csiksentmihlia. I don't know how to say that name, but he's somebody who came up in when I was doing, research on flow state. He's also somebody who came up when I'm doing my reading. I'm rereading University of Success by Og Mandino. And he's going over how to get into flow state, it just happened to come at the same day that I was going to record this. I did the research on it before, but this chapter actually came up the same day that I was going to do this recording. And not only did I find him in the research, but I found him there. And he is a psychologist known for his pioneering work on the concept of flow state. And this flow state is a state of deep focus where individuals perform at their best. And in this research on flow, which shows that individuals are most productive and satisfied when fully immersed in challenging goal-oriented tasks. Mind you, it says challenging. Mind you, it says goal-oriented. There's something at the end of this that you're trying to get out of this task. And the thing about it is this. This is why I say the thing about flow state is that it is for the things we're trying to do for us, because they're goal-oriented tasks. These tasks are going to take you somewhere. You know where this task is going to take you. You know what this task is going to bring you. You know what this task is going to accomplish for you. That makes it easier to get in that flow state. We can talk a little bit later on, and maybe this will be in a different video, about how to get into that perspective where you're able to get into flow state for other people's goals. But right now, I want you to think about your own goals. Right now, I want you to think about how to get into the flow state, giving yourself the opportunities, giving yourself those time blocking and those batches to get into something like the flow state for your own goals when you're fully immersed in challenging goal-oriented tasks. Now, we go back to the man who would sit in the soundproof booth. He would completely eliminate distractions from himself. Mind you, this was a time before they had cell phones and things like that. But I imagine that if he had a cell phone, he would have left it outside. I imagine that if he had a tablet, he would have brought the tablet in with him, but he would have turned off all of the notifications. He would have put it on airplane mode. He would have put it on all sorts of do not disturb. He may not even have any apps on this particular laptop except the one where he can write down, the one where he can type up, the one where he can look at all of the pieces that he has and have that space for that missing piece so he can fully immerse himself. This is the only thing that is going on. That is how you get into the flow state. This is the only thing that's going on. And once you get to that point, it allows your brain to enter the state. Creativity, problem-solving peak. You will come up with solutions for your problems that you never thought you would be able to come up with on your own. You will solve problems that you never thought you could problem solve on your own. Or you might get the inspiration to reach out and contact somebody that you wouldn't have normally thought of. I wouldn't have normally thought to reach out to you to solve this problem, but something told me this is where your inspirations, this is where your hunches come from, getting in that flow state. Now let's talk about how distractions impact that focus. Multitasking, constant interruptions lead to attention residue, whereas shifting between tasks reduces cognitive efficiency and extends the time needed to complete tasks. This is something we talked about in our batching video when we talked about the time it takes to really shift from one task to the next. And that's why batching similar categories of tasks in the same time block, This is why time blocking is so important. This is why multitasking is not actually a real thing unless you're doing the same or similar types of tasks, just for maybe different people. Like you're answering emails. That's something you can multitask on, because you can answer an email from this person, then answer an email from that person, then answer an email from that person. That is multitasking, but you cannot be answering emails, responding to people's texts and calls, putting out people's fires while you're trying to work on like something, a passion project. And we talk about Gloria Mark, who is a professor and researcher specializing in the effects of multitasking and distractions on productivity. And Gloria Mark's research at UC Irvine shows that it takes an average of 23 minutes to refocus after an interruption. 23 minutes. Now, I really want you to think about this. I want you to think about if you're somebody who has to work 8, 9, 10 hours to pay the bills. If you're somebody who has to work 8, 9, 10 hours to pay the bills and then come home and not neglect your kids and not neglect your wife. You're somebody who has to come home and not neglect paying the bills and not neglect cleaning up your house and not neglect feeding yourself or feeding your family and not neglect your pets or not neglect your family or any of those things. I want you to think about where you are time-wise after you've done everything that you have to do. That you're required to do for survival. And then I want you to think about when you think about where you are time-wise for the things that you have, the time you have left to do what you want to do to thrive. And I really want you to think about whether you have 23 minutes to throw away every single time you have a distraction, every single time you get an alert pop up on your phone, every single time a text message pops up, every single time somebody calls, every single time you start scrolling, every single time that something catches your focus if you have the TV on, or you're trying to do something while you're watching a basketball game and somebody dunks the ball. Somebody crosses somebody so bad that they fall out of their shoes. I want you to think about whether you have that 23 minutes. I want you to think about that. If you're somebody who has all of that time, if you're somebody who has that just huge surplus and economy of time, to take that whole 23 minutes every single time you're trying to focus on your project, on your passions, on your goals, and on your dreams, then this one ain't for you. But if you're somebody who has to cram because you need to sleep between 6 and 8 hours, you're at work 8 to 10 hours, you got a family to feed, you got a house to take care of, you got things to clean up, you got laundry to do, you got to hit the gym, you got to get your entertainment. You have to get your recreation. You have to read and learn about things for yourself. How much time do you really got for that thing that's going to get you rich, for that thing that's going to get you out of this situation? How much time do you really got? And I want you to really think about that and think about whether you actually have that 23 minutes or not. And once you've thought about it and realize you don't got that 23 minutes, let's talk about how to get to this deep work. Let's talk about how the strategies for implementing the deep work. Number 1, time blocking. Schedule specific blocks of uninterrupted time in your calendar dedicated to deep work. This is what we have been building to with our time blocking, with our calendars, with our batching. This is what we have been building to getting into. It is the flow state. It is getting into deep work. And of course, with the free hour, I recommend you start with an hour of deep work daily, and gradually increase as focus improves. And the reason I say to gradually increase as focus improves is because it's the same thing that I tell people who are just starting to work out or just trying to get back into the gym after they've been gone for a long time. You want to get in there, you want to run miles. You want to get in there and you want to lose all this weight. You want to get in there and drastically change your diet. You want to get in there and just get amazingly stronger all at once. You have to start in a sustainable, you have to start in a manageable, you have to start in a way that's not going to just kill you so much that first day that you don't want to go the second day. And everybody has a free hour. No matter how busy you are, you got 1 free hour of your day. This is the same thing that I told you on day 1 when I made this video on my Obama phone. When I first got out of prison, when I was wearing my ankle monitor. When I was in the county jail during COVID, we were able to come out of our cell for 1 hour a day. I took that hour to do deep work on myself. I did the working out. I mended and maintained relationships on the phone. I went and got insights into books that I was reading that I didn't understand yet. I went and got some spiritual advice. I talked to people. I maintained my sanity And I was able to maintain my mental health and my physical health using just that 1 hour of daily deep work. And it carried me through the next 23 until I was able to expand on it. It's like running a couple laps until you're able to run more. It's like getting in there and doing 3 sets of an exercise on a body part, moving on to the other body part, moving on to another body part, until you're able to get in there and do four different exercises for 4 sets each. And then, of course, you have to ensure that that daily deep work aligns with your peak productivity hours. This is why it's crucial. This is why we went over scheduling your free hour. This is why we went over finding the times that you have in your day to get that hour of freedom, because this will align with your peak productivity hours. A lot of times what we do is we waste our peak productivity hours trying to multitask. We waste our peak productivity hours trying to scroll on the phone. We waste our peak productivity hours trying to get a laugh, trying to get some escape. We're wasting that free hour. Find that free hour and start just with the 1 hour a day until you're able to expand it, until you're able to get into the point where you can focus more and longer. And then eliminate distractions. Turn off your notifications. Use noise-canceling headphones. Set boundaries with colleagues or family members. One of the things that I talked about before, especially somebody who has to work, if you have leeway and latitude in what you do at work, make sure that you set the boundaries with people so that they're not trying to come talk to you. They're not trying to come expect you to put out fires within a certain time frame of the day. Make sure that they know what it is. They know what you're doing and when you're doing it. But then also you have to follow it yourself so that people won't see that you were just saying that to try and keep them away from them. Set those same boundaries with family members. Not everybody has access to a soundproof booth where they're able to just get in there and focus just solely on those things. But try your best to have your own place that you can do those things. Try your best to have that privacy. Try your best to make sure that if you got roommates, they're not coming and bothering you at 5 o'clock, 5 to 6. Tell them to come bother you at 6:15. Tell them to come and see if you want to get something to eat at 6:15. Tell them to come ask you if you want to go to the gym at 6. Don't come at 5:30 when you're trying to do something, because that 5:30 will turn into that 23 minutes of trying to get back on track. That's 5:53. You got 7 more minutes of deep work. You ain't accomplished shit. And then set clear goals for each deep work session. Set specific, measurable goals for every single deep work session to maintain focus and productivity. And what this will also do is this will also help you build confidence. This will also help you build self-esteem. This will also help you build a habit, because you're giving yourself a reward. There's a cue, there's a response, there's a reward. 5 o'clock hits, it's my deep work time. I accomplished my task. And see, the thing about it is you may have a grand overarching scheme of things. You may have a grandiose project that you're trying to get to, but I guarantee you that you can take that project and bust it down into little bits, and bust those little bits down into tiny bits, bust those tiny bits down into daily bits, and get those daily bits done every single day. Break them down into actionable tasks to be completed during each session. Write the introduction to the report instead of work on the report. Write 2 pages out of a chapter instead of work on a chapter. Write an outline for a video instead of work on videos, topics, things like that. Now let's talk about applying deep work to achieve long-term goals. Deep work and goal alignment. Deep work sessions can be used to make progress on long-term purpose-driven goals. By dedicating time to deep, focused tasks, individuals can ensure that their daily activities align with their overall objectives. Now, when you think about something like launching a business, when you think about all the steps that are going into the business, when you think about the business plan, when you think about working on location, when you think about working on market research, when you think about everything, worried about marketing, how you're going to market things, whether you need to have a partner, how you're going to get employees, what you're going to sell, what you're going to do, everything like that. And you think about all those things. Every single one of those things can be broken down into daily activities that align with your overall objectives. One of the things that you need to do is that you need to make sure, you need to evaluate, you need to reflect, you need to take a look at, okay, did this deep work session actually get me to where it was that I wanted to go? are these deep work sessions that are coming up that I have planned and set out for the week. Because remember, we've talked about time blocking. We've talked about setting these time blocks previous. We've talked about putting them in your calendar. We've talked about color coding them. We've talked about all of these different apps, and we talked about writing them down, pen and paper. Now you can look at your week ahead and say, okay, does my 3 o'clock deep work session align with what I'm trying to do? Does it align with my role? I'm trying to write a book. Does my Thursday deep work session actually align with me trying to write a book? Yes, it does. No, it doesn't. And we talk about people who use daily deep work sessions to complete major projects. Things like writing books, you can't do that in a day. Launching a business, you can't do that in a day. Building a platform, you can't do that in a day. But there are people, they take these daily deep work sessions and they make these things happen. And I suggest maybe conducting a weekly review of deep work sessions, because since you're doing daily deep work sessions, assess your progress, reflect on the quality of the work that you're producing, and adjust your time blocks for the next week. Do this every week. Do this every time that you're going into your schedule. Do this every time that you're going in and putting things into your Notion, or putting things into your pen and paper calendar, putting things into your Google Calendar, putting things into your Apple Calendar. Or whatever the case, whatever you use, your good notes, and you're just writing things in there. Take the time to go back and be like, okay, you know what? These 2 sessions were really good. These 2 sessions, I actually got more done than I thought I could. These 2 sessions, I was actually able to find more energy to keep going. This one session, it was a little bit difficult to get into that mode. Why? Was it outside things? Was it me? Were my thoughts not focused? Or was the task, or was the goal, or was the amount of work that I wanted to accomplish for that session, was it too much? And I was too focused on it being too much, and I was too focused on beating that deadline instead of just focused on the work, right? Do that every week. Identify patterns in your productivity. Fine-tune your deep work sessions accordingly. Let's talk about overcoming some challenges. Obviously, resistance and procrastination. Internal resistance or procrastination that arise when starting your deep work now is basically as simple as this. A body at rest wants to stay at rest. A body in motion wants to stay at motion. I would just say, just start. Now, I've suggested the hour. I've suggested the free hour. One of the things I would do is I would bust even that free hour down into a smaller chunk. You could use maybe the Pomodoro technique, which is 25 minutes of focused work followed by a short break. It helps you get started. It helps you build momentum. Now, you know that you want to work for an hour. You know that you want to start to get to the point where you can work for an hour. You can make your deep work sessions 25 minutes, short break, 25 minutes on a similar task that will keep you in that same state of mind, but is different enough to where you can actually feel like you were able to take a break. You'll build momentum. Just get started. That's really the only way to beat procrastination, is just start. That's really the only way to beat resistance, is just start. And I think one of the things about procrastination and resistance is this, and it will be helped by the fact that you are breaking your things down into such small pieces, is that you procrastinate because you think the task is going to take forever. You procrastinate because you think the task is going to be unenjoyable. You think the task is going to be extra difficult. You think the task is going to be unpleasant, and you're avoiding that pain, right? It's a very small measure of pain, but you're basically avoiding pain and chasing pleasure. We talked about Tony Robbins. He talked about basically that's what we do as human beings. Our brain is wired to avoid pain and chase pleasure, especially the amygdala. When you're dealing with resistance and procrastination, is because there is some pain that you believe is associated with starting to do this work. When you look at, okay, I'm going to start working on my book, the reason you procrastinate, the reason you have resistance is because you haven't gotten to the perspective of, okay, I'm going to work on these 2 pages today. You're really like still thinking either in the front of your mind or in the back of your mind that you are going to sit down and have to work on this entire book right now, that you're going to have to come up with all of your characters and all of their motivations and all of the obstacles and all of the storyline and all of the plot and all of the setting and all of this stuff in your first deep work session. Every time you sit down, you think that's what you're going to have to do. And that's where the procrastination comes in, because it just looks so big. And yeah, those things are going to be big, but how do you go a mile one step at a time? You just have to start. And then once we've been able to start, now that we've taken a look at our environments, we're not able to get into perfect, quote unquote, perfect environments. Find quiet workspaces. If you can't find a quiet workspace, get noise canceling headphones. Use background music. Use white noise. Go to the library. Go to a co-working space. Don't go to Starbucks trying to write your book. You're not actually writing your book. You're just trying to tell people that you are an author. And then also consistency in building the deep work habit. You have to look at these sessions as a habit. You have to look at it as like the same way that I'm going to the gym every day, I'm going to work every day. I'm going to work every day. I'm clocking in to put some hours. I'm clocking in to put some minutes. I'm clocking in to put some effort on what it is that I am trying to get to every single day. And it is a habit. It's a habit, and it's a habit that requires consistency. That's why I say commit to these daily deep work sessions, commit to short ones, and gradually increase your ability to focus for longer periods. Just like you're gradually able to make your workouts go longer, you'll gradually be able to make these things go longer. And that's it. Today we talked about deep work in the context of productivity. And our productivity series is about aligning productivity with purpose. So when we talked about deep work, it was about aligning our deep work sessions, about getting into a flow state, trying to chase our goals and our dreams. And we learned the definition of deep work. We learned about the science behind it. Talked about practical strategies for implementing it, and then how deep work aligns with achieving long-term goals. What I would challenge you guys to do today is schedule your first deep work session today. Schedule it. Eliminate distractions. Focus on a high-impact task for at least an hour. And if you can't do an hour, do the Pomodoro technique. Do 25 minutes, short break. Success is about focus and deep work, not multitasking, not distractions. All right? Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something from it. I hope you were able to kind of get that motivation to get to doing something that you know you needed to do. And if you didn't know how you were going to, get the structure of it or how you were going to formulate it or whatever the case, hopefully this helped you get there. Hopefully this is something that helped you be like, okay, so this is why I'm not getting my stuff off the ground, because I'm trying to do too much at once at the same time. Hopefully we can get there together with this deep work. Let me know how things go, man. Leave me a comment. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe if you enjoyed the video. It's your boy Trevor Turner, ABC series of productivity. Deep work. Deuces.